When I decided to get these kitchen cabinets painted, I got 3 estimates from professional painters, and the estimates range from $2,400 to $4,300, and I got these estimates from painters whose reviews mentioned how their rates were really reasonable. So I can only guess how much higher the estimates would have been from other painters. Given the fact that there were not that many cabinets, I decided to save myself $2,400 at least by painting the cabinets myself. In this video, I'm going to share with you the products I used and the shortcuts I took that still resulted in a durable paint job with absolutely no sign of any peeling or chipping or coming off or wearing down even after over a year. Considering that this is one of the biggest bang for buck DIY projects, I would definitely paint cabinets DIY again next time. But there are some things I would do differently, and I'll discuss those later in the video. First, I'm going to clean the cabinets with this cleaner. It says, leave surface clean without rinsing. I dissolved about a quarter bottle in about half a gallon of water, but next time I think I would add the entire bottle to a gallon of water to make the solution more concentrated so that it works even better at taking the grease off. Then I took a small piece of rag, soaked it in the solution, wiped the cabinet surface down, threw that rag away when it got a little dirty, got another small piece of clean rag, soaked, then wiped, and kept repeating this process many times. I did not take off the cabinet doors because I didn't care if the hinges got painted, but I did take off all the drawer handles and the cabinet pulls beforehand. You can see 2 missing cabinet doors. They were bashed in, so I had to take them off to repair them, and I'm going to show you the quick and dirty way I made the repairs at the end of this video for anyone who might be interested. I'm done cleaning the cabinet, and now I'll put on some primer, and the type of primer that I'll be using is this. It's this oil-based primer that's supposed to be really great at making paint stick and durable and doesn't require sanding. I also paid more to buy the low VOC version of the primer, but the fumes and the smell were just as strong as the regular version of this oil-based primer, so that was a complete waste of money, and I would just get the regular one next time. I applied the primer using a paintbrush, and as you can see, I just dipped and painted without pressing out the excess paint from the brush. And that was a big mistake because I ended up putting on too much primer with each stroke. So the primer ran down and dripped down in a lot of places. This is what the cabinets looked like after one coat of primer application. Okay, so now I'm going to paint with this semi-gloss urethane alkyd enamel paint. And this Behr alkyd paint is water-based, but it's supposed to stick really well to both water-based and oil-based paint or primer. Again, I made the mistake of just dipping the brush into the can of paint and not pressing out the excess paint, which resulted in a terrible paint job. What you're seeing is mostly due to too much oil-based primer that I had put on, which slid down or dripped down the cabinet. I sanded down just a few of the worst looking spots before applying a second coat of paint. This is how the cabinets looked after one coat of paint. As the last step, I'm going to put on a second coat of paint using this foam roller. This is a 4-inch high density foam. By the way, I didn't protect the walls right next to the cabinets with any painter's tape. Instead, I went back and applied some touch-up paint to the areas of the walls that had gotten some of the cabinet paint on them. This is a close-up of what the cabinets look like after a second coat of paint and with the original cabinet pulls back on. The biggest lesson I learned is don't put too much paint on the brush or the roller, and make sure to apply just a very thin coat of primer or paint at a time so that nothing runs down, even if that means having to apply a couple of coats of primer instead of just one. In fact, I would stay away from using a paintbrush on large flat surfaces and instead use the foam roller from which excess paint or primer has been pressed out really well. This is the amount of paint that was left over after I finished. So 2 coats of paint required only about a quarter gallon of paint, and the same for the primer. That's because I didn't paint the back of the cabinet doors. So for a kitchen of this size, getting 2 quarts of primer and 2 quarts of paint should be more than sufficient to paint the cabinets, including both sides of the doors. As for the budget required for this DIY project, you would need about $100. I didn't include the cost of the paintbrush since most folks would already have one lying around the house. That's the end of my cabinet painting portion of the video, and now I'm going to show a quick and dirty way I fixed the damaged cabinet doors. This is a pretty bad damage, but one that can still be fixed. The door was bashed in a little bit, so I supported the back of the door with a couple of paint sticks. I used a crazy amount of glue, and that was a terrible mistake because the water from the glue made the wood sticks warp while the glue took forever to dry, even though I stapled the sticks into the door to keep them in place. Next, I applied wood filler to the front side of the door. And in case anyone's interested, this is the wood filler I used. Here's something else I learned. You need to sand the wood filler down to the point where you think you've overdone it. I thought I did a good job of sanding, but once I started putting the primer on the door, I realized that I didn't do it enough, but by then it was too late. After applying the primer, I hung the 2 repair doors back on and painted them together with the rest of the cabinets in the kitchen. And you've already seen that part, so thanks for watching.